What's up, everybody? I'm Reverend Nia.
I'm Minister Wallace.
My name is Reverend Tiff, and welcome to Millennial Conversations.
Millennial Conversations is a Bible study specifically for young adults where we teach through dialogue and have candid conversations from an emerging generation of leaders.
Be sure to repost and share with the hashtag RTMC. That means Read Temple Millennial Conversations. And don't forget to engage with us in the chat.
You can tune in to our Read Temple website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel every Thursday at 7 p.m. So grab your pens,
grab your notebooks,
and join us for tonight's rap session. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Millennial Conversations. Last week, we kicked off the month talking about millennial leadership, and tonight we're going to continue in that vein, and we have two wonderful, powerful guests, as Reverend Tiff mentioned last week, and they're going to introduce themselves at this time. We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Reverend Tiffany Brooks, pastor of Macedonia AME Church in Accomack, Virginia.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. I am Pastor Timothy Dorsey, pastor of La Plata AME Church in La Plata, Maryland.
Awesome. Thanks, bro. Thank y'all so much for being here tonight. Listen, make sure y'all share, repost, use the hashtag RTMC. Again, RTMC, which stands for Read Temple Millennial Conversations. Be sure to share, invite 5 friends, whether they're millennial leaders or not. Just invite everyone to join into our Bible study tonight. Tim, can you lead us in our scripture for tonight, please?
I can. Bear with me. Technology.
It ain't always loyal.
It ain't always loyal. All right, our scripture lesson this evening comes from Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, and then 10 through 13. And it reads, "Then Moses answered, 'But suppose they do not believe me or listen to me, but say, the Lord did not appear to you.' The Lord said to him, 'What is that in your hand?' He said, 'A staff.' And he said, 'Throw it to the ground.' So he threw the staff on the ground and it became a snake, and Moses drew back from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Reach out your hand and seize it by the tail.' So he reached out his hand and grasped it, and it became a staff in his hand." Verse 10, "But Moses said to the Lord, 'Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue.' Then the Lord said to him, 'Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak.' But he said, 'Oh, my Lord, please send someone else.'"
Thank you so much, man. Y'all, this is a very powerful text. It's a very loaded text. It's a very heavy text. But we're going to do the best we can with the time that we have. And so tonight we're going to talk about, we're still on the millennial leadership, but tonight we're going to talk about the weight of leadership. The weight of leadership. And so, Jazz, we'll kick it to you. What are some lessons, or one lesson that you learn about the weight of leadership from this particular narrative about Moses?
I think for me, this text speaks to the fact that even our most revered leaders, our most well-respected leaders, have natural human inclinations. They have doubts, they have fears, and that's okay. Because we often put our leaders, the prophets, in this deified position. They're like demigods to us. We think of Moses in the same way that we think of Jesus. Like, this is somebody who God has specifically called and chosen, and so they're exceptional. But this text is a reminder that even our most revered leaders, those who have been called by God, those we follow, those we trust, have human inclinations, and that's okay, because it reminds us that in the same way that they are called and they are full human beings, we have a calling and we are full human beings, and it's okay for us to live into those natural human inclinations and still be called by God and still be doing the Lord's work.
Well said.
I think to add on to what my sister has said, Moses, what he said to the Lord was, "Why are you choosing me when there are many other people who speak better than I do, who may look better than I do, who dress better than I do?" And I think for me, it reminded me so much of individuals who run from their calling. And it is that weight that you don't want to accept what God is calling you out or what God has set you aside for. I can remember, just growing up around the corner in Southeast DC, you didn't see many preachers come out of Southeast DC, and young at that. So it was one of those things that reminded me of when you run from the calling that God has on you. Like, no, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to use you. I don't care how you talk or how you look, but I'm going to use you.
Man, I echo both of everything that you both have shared. I think what stood out to me in terms of lessons is because as a leader myself, not pastoring in the traditional sense, but as a leader myself, I also have asked myself, even when I was throughout seminary, I literally asked God at least once a month, why me, or are you sure? Like, I think you might have gotten the wrong one, or the wires got crossed somewhere. But the one thing that stood out to me in this narrative is when God asked Moses, what's in your hands? And so what that said to me is no matter how inadequate I may feel, how unqualified I may feel, how unworthy I may feel, in essence, he's already given me what I need. And so even though for Moses, he was feeling, those feelings of inadequacy, which we will touch in a second, God asked him, what's in your hands? In essence, you already have what you need in order to be successful in what I've called you to do. And oftentimes when we are feeling the ways that in which you both have mentioned, oftentimes we feel like we are ill-prepared. We don't have everything we need, or maybe it's somebody who may be better suited for it. And I feel like when God asked Moses, what's in your hands, God was saying, listen, check out what you already have. Use what you have to then accomplish what it is I've set out for you to do, versus trying to look to somebody else versus what somebody else has, because what may work for somebody else may not work for you. Because the weight of leadership for me may not be the same weight that you have to carry as a leader. And so that's what stood out to me, is just that aspect of God asking, what's in your hand? Like, you got what you need. Like, what else do you want from me? Like, I've given you what you need. Any other lessons, any other thoughts?
Yeah, what you're talking about now with that piece about him asking, what's in your hand, led me to a thought that I had also taken note of when I was reading the text, and that is a part of Moses' major issue was that he doubted his own personhood. And he's saying, I don't have the proper speech, I'm not the person, surely you have made a mistake, right? But God is saying, you're worried about social acceptability. You're worried about how people will perceive you. You're worried about things that I've already been made aware of what your speech impediment is. I already knew that when I called you, right? Like, but it's not about whether or not you speak eloquently. It's not about whether or not you have the power on your own. It's about your personhood. A lot of people could be saying the same thing that you're saying, but they not you though. Right. They could be doing the same thing that you're doing, but they not you though. And I called you, and I was aware of your shortcomings, and I was aware of your inadequacies when I called you. But where you lack, I'm going to fill in the gaps. I'm going to send you the resources you need. And so that's why God said, all right, Aaron is coming. So but you still call. You still got a work to do, and we're going to send you the resources to help support that work.
Right, I'm going to send Aaron, but let's be clear, you still call.
You the one, right? You the leader.
The what if, that what if cycle, I think we all have gone through it at one point in time or another, when he was saying, well, what if they don't believe me? What if they don't believe that you are the one that sent me, type of thing. It's like, yeah, that's fine. I get it. You're doubting yourself, but I'm not. Anything to add?
So one thing that stood out to me was when he talked about how he looked, how he sounded. And for me, you all may not have had to go through this, but in the Board of Examiners, I was told to cut my hair.
What?
I remember that.
I was told to cut my hair because I did not look like the modern day, or I didn't look like the suited and booted preacher. I was not your
so shocked right now.
your three-piece suit wearing pastor, because I had long hair and I have visible tattoos.
Just a little bit of ink.
A little bit of ink. But does that make me different from that person that does not have all the hair that I have? As my sister said, I know what you have, and God said, I know what you've been through. I made you in my image, and that's totally different from the image of Pastor A or Pastor B, and I don't care about that. What you have to say is what I want to put on your heart. So I don't care if you got the best looking clothes, if your shoes are not shined, if you don't have on a suit, if you have long hair, I don't care. Like, I am sending you out to do my work.
Absolutely, which is a perfect segue into the next question, and that's discussing what caused Moses to doubt and to disqualify himself as a leader, which of course we would have to then have the discussion briefly about Moses' beginning, right? Mm-hmm. So Jasmine, let's kick off because you smiled at me first.
Okay, I was hoping you wasn't gonna start with me, but it's cool. No, I think there's several things that play into it, and one is a piece of what I mentioned in the last time I spoke, is that social acceptability. You're talking about a political climate that says you're not the one. You're talking about social respectability that says you're not the one. Moses' beginning says you're not the one.
Exactly.
Because you don't fit the mold of the person with the economic status, the social status, the political stature. So you're not gonna be the one that leads them. You're the smallest, you're the weakest, you're at the bottom of every totem pole that counts right now. And so I think, like anybody would, he's going to have some reservations because this is the culture he's grown up in, and it's a culture that is not affirming of his personhood, a culture that's not affirming of who he is, the gifts he possesses. So I think all of that plays into the reason why he would have some doubts.
Mm-hmm. Tim?
Just reading over who he was, it kind of seemed like he was afraid from the beginning, from when he saw the vision, or not the vision, but when he saw the people getting beat up. And then he killed the guy, and he's
murder
like,
will do it.
Yeah, murder will do it.
Uh-huh.
Murder will have you hiding. and then God said, when they ask you, who is he? Who am I? Tell them I am he who sent you. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, don't worry about all that you've done in the past. I've forgiven you. I forgave you spiritually. Now, man may not forgive you. Mm-hmm. Man is going to keep bringing it up, but I understood what you've done in the past, but I'm still setting you aside, and I'm using you for my will and my purpose.
Y'all both took my answers.
I'm sorry.
But considering his beginnings, right? You know, being placed in a basket after, you know, Pharaoh said, listen, kill all the male children, and, you know, putting them in the basket, send them down the River Nile, and then him being raised by somebody else, being paid to his actual mother was being paid to take care of him. And then them not even giving him a name during his most informative years, and he didn't even have a name until, it says sometime later, but most of his informative years, he didn't have a name at all. So he didn't even have a sense of identity from the beginning. And so when you look at somebody who doesn't even come into a sense of identity into who they are until whatever that sometime later is, and then seeing how they experience so much in that sometime later, between murdering somebody, between seeing people being beaten, between, you know, the enslavement, you know, all of that, seeing all of that, witnessing all of that, and then you have a speech impediment on top of that. It's like, Brad, you called the wrong one, right? And so all of that adds to the weight of leadership, the self-denial, my past mistakes, my past issues, my socioeconomic status, the political sphere for which I am growing up and being raised in. All of that adds to the weight that we all have as it relates to being a leader. And perfect segue to the next question is, what are some other things that adds to the weight of leadership for you? We'll go this way first, Tim, because last time you asked.
I think it's comparing ourselves to others.
Is this for you? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Here we are, young millennials. We're a good group of friends. We talk periodically. And sometimes in the past, I found myself comparing myself to others.
Okay.
Based on my ministry, my leadership, what I'm doing, what I have done, and then looking at them like, well, they didn't do as much as, or they're not doing as much as I am, or how did they get here? And I've had to learn, you know, I can't always compare myself. I should not compare myself to the next person. And in conversation with Reverend Jazz, we were just talking about that, and it's like, I don't know the struggles that Chania went through. I don't know the struggles that Jazz went through to get to where you all are. And that's what I've had to learn, and that's one of the weights that I know that young millennial leaders can go through, is comparing themselves to others.
Comparison. Thank you for your transparency.
For me, I'm gonna just speak for Jazz. One thing I don't think we talk about enough, and I wish we did in the Board of Examiners or just in general conversation or in the church in general, is that the leader can't be the only person with a vision. The leader can't be the only person who sees us beyond where we are right now, and has in their mind some tangible steps toward getting to that vision. At some point, somebody else in the camp got to see something too, or at the very least has to be able to see themselves at the intersection of the leader's vision and vision manifested. If the leader is the only person with some vision, the only person taking some steps toward that vision, the only person who believes in the vision, then we're gonna have a problem. And I think that was a major problem that Moses often had. The people was grumbling all the time because they couldn't see beyond the moment that they were in. They didn't have any vision beyond enslavement. They didn't have any vision beyond the wilderness. And Moses is out here like, but God told me though. I know for a fact though. But they didn't have the vision. And so he had to basically drag them along. And it's time out for all of that. Nobody not trying to drag anybody.
Time out.
No. Either you come in or you getting left. But at the end of the day, the issue is, or one of the things I think we need to talk about more often is vision casting for everybody. Not just the leader being the one who drafts the vision for everybody.
You took a breath. I feel like you wanted to add something before I speak. So go for it, Tim.
You know your brother.
I sure do.
You know your brother. So to Reverend Jazz, how does one even put out their vision to, let's talk, I mean, we're in 2021, and we know what the structure of our churches are, our local churches anyway. And if you are given leadership that is, one, not consistent, and two, not stable, how can you get those people to, when you finally get that leader, how can you get someone to buy into that vision when they've had all these people that were sent to them as what we call supply pastors? I'm only sending them there for the time being. I mean, they may have visions too, but how can they build off of that if they only here for today and then they gone tomorrow or next month?
And that's why I think it's very important for the people to have an active role in vision building, because this is an itinerant ministry.
Yeah.
Even if you're not just a supply and you are appointed as the pastor, you only appointed for 1 year at a time. So next year you could be gone and the vision can't go with you. Like, you gotta, the lay people have to be a major component in the vision casting process. And even beyond just the fact that this is an itinerant ministry, and so the lay are the backbone of the church, it belongs to them. When we come in, we coming into a space where we very new, and they've been here for 3 generations of their family. That's not your church, and you not their pastor right now. Like, you just been appointed. And one thing that I have been taught by my elders and my mentors in ministry is that you can't come into the house and just start immediately rearranging the furniture. At this point, you're just a bill. You need to baptize some babies, do some weddings, bury some people's kinfolk before you can call yourself the pastor and start trying to tell them what they're gonna do and where they're supposed to be going. Involve everybody in the vision casting process, because ultimately it's their church, it's their ministry, and either they're gonna do it or they're not, but you're not gonna be there forever. Not in an itinerant ministry.
True. That is true.
So.
It's a really good question. I'm sorry. I'm just learning.
Well, I hope I answered it all right. I mean, I gave what I got.
That's all you get.
Yeah.
The weight of leadership. So you said comparison, vision casting, and it being a
communal
community effort. Communal effort. That's actually a better word. Good job. I think also something else that adds to the weight of leadership sometimes is insecurities, low self-esteem, those things add to the weight of it. And I specifically want to mention the weight because oftentimes when we see young adults or adults in leadership, people look like, people respond in a way that would indicate that this is a goal to reach. Like, oh, they're pastoring, I'm trying to get there. But it's like, my will by the end of this month is that everybody who's ascribing and aspiring to be leaders will understand that it's not always what you see. And there's a weight to leadership, whether you're pastoring, whether you're a steward, a trustee, an usher, the chairperson of a committee, that's still leadership. If you're the director of the choir, if you're a praise team leader, like that's still leadership. I would want to encourage us all to not necessarily strive for the goal of leadership without understanding that there's a whole lot that goes along with leadership than standing in the spotlight. Because while somebody is standing in the spotlight and you're saying, that's my leader, like you see all the glory, but you have absolutely no idea about the story that goes behind that. And so, and even to your point of comparison, I say all the time, never be jealous of somebody else, regardless of their position. You don't know what it took for them to get there. You don't know what it's taken for them to stay there. And so there's a weight to this thing, not the anointing, well, yeah, the anointing too, not just the call, but just to carrying out what God has called us to do, especially those of us who ascribe to leadership. There's a lot to go along with it, and we do pray that you all are certainly in prayer about your endeavors to want to lead, but understand that there is certainly weight to leadership. I want to thank our guests, Reverend Jasmine and Reverend Tim, for coming on. They will be with us again in 2 weeks. So thank you again for joining us tonight. If you are joining us tonight and you are unsaved, unsure if you're saved, or don't know what it means to be saved, if that is you on tonight, I invite you to make a bold faith move on tonight and type in the chat, "It's me." Maybe you are already saved and are sure about it, but you don't have a church on where you're growing, not just where you are going, for you can go to church and not grow in church. And you want to be connected to a body of believers that will help keep you encouraged, whether you are a leader or not. We invite you to make a bold faith move and type in the chat, "It's me." Maybe you're already saved and are sure you have a church home where you are growing, not just where you are going, but you want prayer or you want to recommit or rededicate your life back to Christ. Somebody told you about Jesus at some point in time or another in your life. Maybe you ran away, strayed away, walked away, ran away, decided to abandon God. Guess what? God has never left God's position. And if you're saying on tonight, God, I've tried this thing called life independent of you, and tonight I want to make the decision to try this thing called life depending upon you. If that's you on tonight, make a bold faith move and type in the chat, "It's me." Now, maybe you're still growing in your faith, and that's perfectly fine. If that's you, won't you head on over to www.reedtemple.org/cares, and someone will most certainly be in communication with you. Last and certainly not least, if you would like to sow into the life of this ministry, not just Millennial Conversations, but into Reed Temple AME Church, so that we can continue the work of the Lord in the church as well as in the community, won't you follow the directions that are on your screen right now? Text that number, sow whatever seed, no matter how large, no matter how small, whatever it is the Lord places upon your heart to sow into this ministry. Won't you do that now at this time? Thank you again so much for joining us tonight. Join us next week. Invite 5 friends and invite 5 millennial leaders if you can, as we continue our dialogue about millennial leadership. Until next time, God bless you.